Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's webinar entitled Projects of Impact. I'm Sandra Hempstead, Regional Rotary Foundation Coordinator for Zone 34. Tonight, we'll highlight two projects of impact. The first project is creatively titled Beautiful Nature Isle Beekeeping Project. The project provided community development for farmers in the southeast part of Dominica. Next, we'll highlight the East Caribbean Neonatal Care Project that expanded this specialized care for 5 island nations in the Caribbean. Finally, we're honored to have past RI President Barry Rassin with us to speak about the Rotary Foundation. Let's start with a couple of housekeeping comments. You will see a closed caption function in the taskbar at the bottom of your screen. This new function enables you to choose from 16 different languages. Please feel free to choose your language from the taskbar. Now, we understand that this is an automated function, so it's not perfect, and speakers are asked to speak clearly to enable more accurate translation. Please note the session is being recorded. You've been muted, and we request you stay on mute to ensure no background noise interferes with the presentation. Please make sure you're in speaker view for the best experience during the webinar. There will be an opportunity for questions at the end of each presentation. Please note at the bottom of your screen, the chat box and the Q&A box. Use the chat box for general comments, but please put all questions for our speakers in the Q&A box only. This will be extremely helpful and will keep the Q&A period moving smoothly. It's likely there will be more questions than we have time, so please understand that we will try to get to as many questions as possible. And now I'd like to introduce Assistant Regional Rotary Foundation Coordinator, Laura Quantrill-Thomas, who will begin with our first project of impact, global grant, Beautiful Nature Isle Beekeeping Project in Dominica.
Thank you very much, Sandra, and good evening to our Rotary family all across the zone. It's my pleasure this evening on behalf of our Zone Foundation team to begin the conversation about these projects of impact with the wonderful Rotarians and project beneficiaries from the Nature Isle of Dominica. So welcome, first of all, to our Spotlight Project partner, Terry Henry. Terry is the producer of Be Natural product range, which comprises a variety of natural deodorants, lip balms, and body balms, all made in Dominica and featuring local beeswax and other plant botanicals. Her products are featured in local stores, hotels, and gift shops, as well as having been exported to the UK, USA, St. Lucia, Barbados, and Dubai. Be Natural produces gift sets for every guest at the award-winning Secret Bay Resort in Dominica. And in October of 2018, Be Natural Products was featured as one of only 2 Dominican businesses at the Caribbean Tourism Organization's State of the Industry Conference in the Bahamas, which focused on regional wellness tourism. So welcome, Terry. Thank you for joining us. Lovely to have you here this evening.
Thank you for having me.
So let's begin the conversation. Tell us a little bit about how your partnership with Rotary began.
Well, I always wanted to be a beekeeper. I actually started my business in developing products with beeswax because getting into beekeeping was just beyond what I could do at that time. So I saw the advertisement for the project and I applied and I got through. I was very excited.
Okay. And how was the process as a beneficiary and applicant? How easy or difficult was the process for you?
It was very easy. I mean, there was a simple application form and then we were just told to wait, and then we were announced that who managed to get it. I know there were a lot of people that applied, so I was, just nervously waiting to see if I was one.
A bit like winning an Academy Award, right? It's
a
real privilege.
like
Real honor. So
Yeah.
talk to us a little bit about the beekeeping that you do and the kind of impact it's had on the community in Dominica.
Okay, so we all started off with a nucleus hive, and we are slowly growing the bees to be bigger hive, like into bigger hives. So for myself, as I use beeswax in my products, my goal is to be able to produce beeswax for my business. And to that extent, like I'm also very much keeping in touch with all the participants because I want their beeswax too.
Right.
So I'm hoping to be like a buyer for beeswax, which is obviously the secondary product. When people are keeping bees, they think of honey first. And so it's really good that I can step in and actually buy beeswax as well and, use that so that nothing, everything is used.
Right. So how many people are actually involved in beekeeping in Dominica?
Well, from the project, I think we had around 30 of us that were trained, but there are other beekeepers that are already established around the island. So I'm not sure of an exact number. I would say, there's probably about 100 beekeepers.
Okay. And how do you see this being sustainable? Because one of the key things with our projects is that it must be sustainable. How do you envisage this project maybe in the next 5 years growing, becoming a sustainable community project?
Well, all of us keep in touch. We have a WhatsApp group, so everybody is supporting each other. So for instance, like some of the guys, more the guys, I would say, are like into like building. Like, so they will post, hey, they built hives, they built frames. And then, other members can then buy the hives and frames to expand their operations. I'm making videos. Actually, I made a whole video series of my journey. So every time I do a hive inspection, or almost every time, I make a video because I've teamed up with a more experienced beekeeper than myself. So we can like continue the education process, because it's great to do like a one-time training, but then there's always questions. It's a continual learning process.
Yeah.
So I've been doing that. And there's others that are, they're always sharing information. So I think that's what keeps the project going, is the fact that we're all coming to it from different angles. Now, there's some people that are really like expanding very rapidly, and then there's others that are taking it more slowly. And, everybody is doing it in their own way, what best benefits them.
Okay. And maybe we could have a quick final comment from Rotarian Lise, if she's there, who is one of the Rotarians from the Rotary Club of Portsmouth in Dominica, who's been spearheading this program and using Rotary Foundation to create this sustainable program in Dominica. Lise, are you there?
Yes, I am, Lara. Good
Lovely.
evening, everybody.
So could you just share with our viewers a little bit about why your club chose beekeeping and your experience with the Rotary Foundation?
The beekeeping, we all know that bees are the most important thing for the nature at the moment. We are the nature isle of the Caribbean, so we have to have bees, and we need to treat them very well. Farmers will benefit from it, but everybody, the flowers, everybody benefits from it. So it's a very important project for us. And as for the foundation, we are very happy and proud that we use the foundation as much as we can in global grants and in district grants. And we also, our members are therefore very motivated to donate also to the foundation. So we see as a club the importance of helping and donating to the funds so that we can benefit ourselves for it with nice and good projects like the beekeeping project.
Wonderful. Yes, exactly. You can't take out of an empty pot, right? So the money has to go in for us to benefit. So I'm going to hand over to Rich now to facilitate the Q&A for this segment of our projects of impact. Rich, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Lara. One of the questions that I think I'd want to ask right now, because we're in the middle of hurricane season, is what happens to the bees during hurricane season?
Well, during this current storm, Right now, some of the bees are being fed with sugar water. So that has to be removed. So there's nothing to fly off. And this, they need to be weighted down. So we use blocks. And then if you have like the ratchet, like whatever they're called, I can't remember. There's like a tie. So basically they're ratcheted down, like, so there's blocks underneath or pallets underneath, and they're tied down. So even if they fall, like especially if you have like hive stacked on top, even if they fall, they kind of all fall together, and so the bees don't spill out.
Okay. Is there a chance of a loss of bees due to this kind of event?
There is. There's always a chance of a loss of everything during hurricane season. Yeah. And that is why I think this project was really important at this time, because we're just recovering still after Hurricane Maria. In 2017, we just had our 5th anniversary of the passage of Hurricane Maria, and that did dramatically affect our bee population, because we lost not only the bees, but we lost a lot of the vegetation that the bees were foraging. So we are still in recovery mode. So yeah, it's very important.
Okay. Aside from the work for the that comes out of the beeswax itself, what other benefits are to the farmers that are involved in this?
Oh, it's massive. Like, you just see a massive increase in the amount of crops. In fact, I have trees that this year flowered and produced fruits that never did before. And that's just with a small nucleus hive. And the beekeeper that I'm currently working with as well, he has just had a farmer approach him to position some of his hives as he's expanding his apiaries, and they're placed just before somebody's farm because they know that they'll get a much better yield. So all farmers benefit when there's bees close by. So the more bees, the better.
Okay. All right. Are there any other groups beside, obviously you're working with Rotary and the Rotary Foundation. Are there some universities or colleges or extensions that are working with you to document what is happening?
So I believe, well, the Rotary Club worked with Israel, so they have followed up. They were the ones that implemented the project as well. And so they followed up with us. And I guess they're doing their own documentation of everybody that's been involved. And like I said, I'm documenting my process for sure.
Okay. If I can get Lisa back on, could you explain how this was part of a global grant and some district grants? Can you tell us the difference?
Yes, we were first contacted by our fellow Rotarians in Canada from Bracebridge. They want to do a global grant because they had some funds and they had some ideas. So our project chair, Rotarian McMarara, came with the idea because he knew that Israel had a pilot project of beekeeping already just after Maria, but was very successful. So we collaborated with Israel and the Rotary Club in Canada in Bracebridge, but Bracebridge said we also have a district grant. So they filled in for a district grant. And then we said, well, wait a minute, we can also fill in a district grant. So we combined the district grant from Canada with a district grant in the District 7030 and the global grant for Rotary International. Therefore, we got more funds together and were able to finalize 30 farmers, while before we only could do 20. So to get the impact greater, we tried to combine it as a huge project.
Okay. I have a question that says, how much funding was required to launch the initiative?
What we had for the global grant, we used 36,000, so it's always 30,000 or more. And for the district grant in Canada, we got 4,700. And from our district, we got 3,000, all in US. We ourselves, the Rotary Club of Portsmouth, we contributed for the district 500 and for the global grant 1,000. So by giving 1,500 US from our club, we received in total 43,700 US, where we were able to do the project. And that's again how important it is to keep funding the foundation.
One last question that came to us is, can you tell us about your project application and the steps that it took for this group to be a part of it?
Yes, we made a questionnaire to be sure. Well, you never be sure. We first did, and that was what Israel, our partner, helped us to do assessment. So once the assessment was done, that's where you start a grant, because without assessment, it doesn't make any sense. But for the applications, the Rotary Club, together with Israel, because they had a list from before. So we took that list, modified it, and looked really, because we also targeted as many female farmers as possible. So we let people explain why they would be a beekeeper, what they're doing now, their age, and a lot of profile questions we had. And then we just sat together and made a list, because also you have to be aware you have a time scale and not everybody is available. So a lot of people already are not able to come. And we also wanted the people to commit. So they all signed a little paper that they committed to really attend all the meetings, all the trainings, and really try to do something with it. We also are working with a third district grant with Canada for coming year to see if we can create or a corporation or to help the people in the business way, what to do, what is the next step, administration, what do I do, how do I file things if they want to grow as a business. So it's not finished yet. And we hope to get another funding from a bank to buy even more hives for people who only have one hive now.
Okay, all right. One of the questions that came in is, would like to know if the products that you have could be used for Rotary fundraisers.
That's my product?
That's product from
No, I guess that'd be your product.
Oh, you'll let me know.
Yeah. We have to then talk with them, but that's, I think, the next stage. Terry already was making stuff from bee wax, but other people, we are thinking indeed about when we produce honey, what can we do? So the question indeed for fundraising, yes, we have that in our minds, but we also realize that they have to give the beekeepers a chance. Like Terry said, there's a nice WhatsApp groups, but I'm also in, and some of our board members, so that works very well. But it takes time to be a beekeeper. It's not a thing that snap you have the bees, you have the hives, and then suddenly you are a beekeeper. So we need to help them process it. And once the honey is getting produced for the new ones, we really want to see indeed how we can use special the honey in a fundraising. So it is in our planning, but it's not, how you say it, it's not fixed in stone yet.
Okay, well, thank you both so much for sharing the project with us and for answering some of the questions. I know there'll probably be some more that will be heading your way, but right now I'm going to turn this back to Sandra. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce Assistant Regional Rotary Foundation Coordinator Tina Fishlin and our second project of impact, the East Caribbean Neonatal Care in Barbados, Antigua, Barbuda, Dominica, and St. Kitts and Nevis. Tina?
Thank you, Sandra. Great. So glad you all decided to join us this evening and hear about these amazing projects, global grant projects. We're moving into the Eastern Caribbean. This is the Eastern Caribbean Neonatal Care Project. This is an amazing project that truly exemplifies the power of partnerships. The East Caribbean Neonatal Project involves multiple clubs, districts, and organizations to sustainably strengthen the medical care available to newborn babies in the Eastern Caribbean. Helping me today with this discussion is past District Governor Rupert Ross from the Rotary Club of St. Croix West. He will be monitoring the Q&A. So let's get started. Today we have Rotarian Frank Hunt to share with us the details of the project. A little background on Frank. He's been a member of the Rotary Club of Barbados West since 1997, where he served in various committees to include the club's president in 2007 and 8. His professional career as a chartered professional accountant involved many years of work in the field of management, finance, accounting, and consultancy. He served 9 years on the Securities Commission that regulates the stock market in Barbados. When I asked him why he chose to join Rotary, he stated, "Rotary is an organization that can stand proudly on its record of recognizing a need in societies throughout the world and working to fill that need." So Frank, welcome. Glad you could join us this evening and talk about this amazing project. So what sparked the idea of this project? Who imagined it and how did it get started? Give us the history. You're muted, I think, Frank. There you go.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Tina, for that introduction. But before I answer your question, I would like to give you a sense of the importance of neonatal care training. Globally, there are 2.4 million children die each year in the first month of life. That's approximately 65 neonatal deaths every day. 1/3 of all neonatal deaths occurring within the first day after birth, and almost 2/3 occurring within the first week of life. Neonatal suffocation accounts for more than 20% of neonatal deaths, and 1 in 10 babies will require assistance beginning to breathe at birth. Here in the Caribbean, the rate of neonatal death is 15 to 16 per 1,000, whereas in the developed countries like Britain and the USA, the rate is 3 to 4 deaths per 1,000. So you can see how important a project like this would be for us, because obviously we'll need to bring that rate down. To answer your question now, the World Pediatric Project has been actively engaged in neonatal training in the Eastern Caribbean since 2011. In this regard, WPP has gained firsthand knowledge and insight into the challenges and needs facing doctors, nurses, hospitals in the Eastern Caribbean. In addition, in 2019, WPP, in partnership with the Pan American Health Organization and Rotary International, hosted the first ever perinatal health conference in the Eastern Caribbean. There were over 60 participants from 14 nations, and attending this event included medical personnel from Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica and St. Kitts, and Nevis. And these are the people that we are doing the project with now. Representatives from the various islands approached WPP to develop neonatal training programs in the individual islands, as was done in St. Vincent and Grenadines, St. Lucia and Grenada. These were projects that were done before. These requests also came from the Ministry of Health officials and hospital administrators in each island. In view of this interest, Rotary West and Forest Park Rotary Club of St. Louis, Missouri responded to the need. The objective is to bring the infant mortality rate more in line with what obtains in the developed countries, which, as I said before, is 3 to 4 per 1,000, as against 15 to 16 per 1,000 in developed countries. Therefore, the aim of the project is to provide the necessary neonatal training required. That's the object of the project, to provide the training.
Wow, those are astounding statistics, and it sounds like a very much needed project in that area. So despite the challenges that we face when we do international projects and global grants or even district grants, what has COVID, a challenge that you've had with COVID and implementing this project?
Yeah, well, like most projects everywhere, you'll find that COVID would have had some importance. It did set us back, but not significantly, because originally we had planned to start this project in early 2021. Mm-hmm. But because of, early 2022, right? Because we got the approval in November 21. So as a result of COVID, obviously there were problems if people wanted to come out because the positivity rate was so high in some of these countries. In our country, the rate went as high even recently as 47%. So that tells you, you know, the fear that would be instilled in these people. So they were a bit reluctant to come out under those circumstances. And as a result, we had to just put back the project for about 2 or 3 months. So the project actually started in May this year. And we started in the first island we started in would be Antigua and Barbuda. The first group went out in May. We're going to have a second group going out in November. And then the other teams will go out in 2023. The second area we'll go to is Dominica. And we're going to start that project in November. And then the other section of it will be done in 2023. With respect to the last island, which would be Nevis and St. Kitts, we are still in discussions with them because they've had some problems with staff turnover. So they were sort of reluctant to start the project at the moment. But right now we're thinking that this project will probably start in early 2023. So that gives you an area of the various things that we'll be doing over the period of time. And this project should probably take between 18 months to 2 years.
Excellent, excellent. So we know the importance of partnerships and collaboration to sustain and be impactful. What organizations and what partnerships have been created because of this project?
Yeah, apart from our clubs, as you said, in Missouri and smaller clubs, we've had partnerships with the various ministries in the various islands, with doctors, nurses, government agencies, all throughout the Caribbean. So we've sort of built up relationships with these people over the period of time.
Right. That's
and so that if we have to do another project, obviously we will be well aware of what we have to do because we know a lot of these people already.
Right. So this project is ongoing and there's an educational component. What is the impact you hope to see at the end of this project?
Yeah, at the end of
significant reduction in neonatal deaths.
Yeah, at the end of the project, actually, we first of all would have actually gained knowledge in doing the project because you know these projects are very important, and the more experience you gain in these areas, it means at some point, if you have another project, it should be easier. So that's point number one. For example, our club is thinking about, well, we have started the project, a hearing project, and we may require funding from the foundation. So at some point, we may have to go to the foundation. By the meantime, we would have gained experience on the first project, so it should be easier to do that second project. The other thing is that we have strengthened the already good relationships with the stakeholders through all of these islands. As I said, we've built up some good relationships, but we would have reinforced these relationships. And the important thing is the sustainability of this project. And we know it's going to be sustainable because what's going to happen is that the people that we train now will train others and it will continue going down the line right down into perpetuity. Also, because of the internet now that we have, it's very easy to correspond with people all over the world. So if we need if these stakeholders in these islands need any assistance, they can easily get on Zoom, they can easily send an email to the various people that they've been dealing with. And so the project, there's no question the project will continue and be sustainable throughout the years.
And it's obvious that the project can be duplicated in other parts of the world. You've kind of laid the groundwork.
Right. And the final thing and the most important thing really is that we hope to bring that rate down, as I said, to between 3 to 4 in line with the keeping of the developed countries, USA and the States. I think that the UN, they have an idea that they expect that this will happen by 2030. So hopefully, we're hoping that this is what will happen. We will save lives because a lot of these lives could be saved. I think they say 80% of these lives could be saved because it's just a question of proper training.
Right.
So if we give the proper training, obviously we can save these lives.
Well, it is an absolutely fabulous project. Congratulations. So let's move to Rupert. Rupert, do we have any questions from our attendees on this amazing project?
And thank you, Zena, for this opportunity. We have so far 2 questions in our Q&A. The first one, inquiring whether or not they've considered scaling up the project and apply for a program of scale grant. Yeah, well, at the moment, we're not doing that. We want to get through this project at the moment. I think, we need to do this project. This will sort of be a pilot project for us. And then further down the line, we can go on to something else. Right now, we don't have any plans really to go any further with this project. Another question has to do with the multi-club structure of the project. Were there any challenges in putting the grant together? Not what has happened, not really. As you probably know, you probably would have done these grants yourself, and you know that it's a long process. And actually, the whole process took us about a year. We were seeing that we were dealing with, our main club really was the club in Missouri. But they in turn, then they would have had other clubs. So they would have been dealing at that level with the smaller clubs. But we would have been dealing with one club. And it was not too difficult. It's just that because we did not have the experience on doing a project of this size through the Rotary Foundation, it would have taken some time. We would have had to discuss with people who would have done the projects before. And this is something that we did. We taught the people who had the knowledge. So it took us a period of about a year. And we had hoped that we would have gotten our approval in last year's, which would have been the ending of the year. But at that point, the foundation did not have any funds. So they tell us to wait for the next Rotary year, which it came up in November. You made reference to training opportunities. Is this an accredited training activity? In other words, the nurses and care workers receive certification? Yes, at the end, correct. At the end of the project, they were going to get a certificate saying that they've gone through this training. So it is a certificate training. So does this allow for them to continue to work as like certified healthcare professionals in their respective countries? Yeah, remember that they are in government positions and jobs already. So they would have had the training. They in turn, because of their certified, they will be qualified to train others in the area. There's a question asking if you are familiar with the International Rotary Fellowship of Healthcare Professionals. Is that an organization you're familiar with? No, I'm not, quite frankly. All right, I'm sure we'll have to get back to you with some information on that. I have another question. Do you recommend this multi-club structure to address other needs in our region? You see, sometimes what our experience really, quite frankly, I tell you, at a local level, we have not had a very good experience. Even at our level, we have 3 clubs in Barbados. And when we do a project, we find that it seems to be very difficult to get it off the ground. There was a very good project that we had thought about, like say, about 10 years ago. It was a project to do with people, who are, I don't want to call, well, yeah, it was to do with, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was a very good project. And we tried to get this project off the ground, and it took us 10 years, and eventually we had to abandon the project. So our experience really, quite frankly, been very bad locally. But we've had a very good experience with this one, and we've had a very good experience before. So I think that there shouldn't be any problem dealing with multi people, but the least, the better. In other words, if you're hooking up a project like this, maybe it's better to hook up with one club, and they in turn at the local level, if they want to bring in other people, smaller clubs, they can deal with it. But it's easier for us to deal with one club rather than going to all the multi-clubs. But I don't think it's really a problem to deal with clubs. So do you intend to offer projects to other clubs in the district and the region? Well, at the moment, I don't know what's the plan, quite frankly, for our club, because we haven't really discussed, what we're doing. As I said, we're trying to get through this project. The important thing is that we're really trying to get it off the ground and get going. And with the experience we would have gained, then maybe later down, the road, we might be thinking of doing other projects. There's a question on the financial budget of the project. Can you give us a? Yeah, I can. The budget, the project actually, the total project is $124,500,000 US, and it was a combination of funds from, as I said, the various clubs, district funds. You know, we had district funds from 3 districts at actually 60-60, 70-30, which is our district, and 76. Now our district, we put in our club actually put in the most money in the project, right? We put up 20,000 US, and the district 60-60 put in 15,000. The Forest Park put in 51. Forest Park is a small club really, and their finances are not really that great. So they put in 5,100. Smaller clubs put in like 500. The other district, 7,600, put in 16,500. And some families put in 3,500. And then other people, individuals, 500, 200, and 2,000. So it's a combination of clubs, districts, and individuals to bring it to 124,500. We actually got the district funds we got was was 51,500, and the contribution we got from the foundation was 41,000. That brings up the budget. All right. There seems to be some other questions coming in, but in essence of time, can you answer this last question? Is there anything you would do differently to increase the impact of the project? Well, see, actually, at this stage, quite frankly, remember the project is we're really in the early stage of the project. So at this stage, there won't be a lot that we would know, but I'm sure as we go along, as you know, you could always do anything better. I mean, the first time you've done anything, the second time is never perfect. So you could always improve it. And I'm sure going along at the end of the project, we're seeing things that we can do better. Oh, thank you, Frank. Sandra, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Frank, for explaining your project. It's a very worthwhile project. Next, I would like to introduce our past RI president and foundation trustee, Barry Rassin. Barry was the 2018-2019 Rotary International president. A Rotarian since 1980, Barry is a member of the Rotary Club of East Nassau, Bahamas. He's the chair-elect for the Rotary Foundation Board of Trustees. Barry has been very involved as a powerful advocate for youth leadership, specifically Rotaract around the world. Now I would like to turn the program over to you, Barry, to speak about the Rotary Foundation.
Sure. Thank you, Sandra. I appreciate that kind introduction. Kept it short. I like that. That's always a good thing. I really appreciate the 2 programs we've heard about today. Really well done. But before I go into any detail, I just wanted to give my best wishes to all those who were in the path of the hurricanes. We've already had one go through 7020, and it's starting to go north now, but now there's another one coming in through 7030. So hunker down, make sure you're kept safe, and remember afterwards when they're all gone, then we got to get together and talk about how we can help. So it's a tough time of year for us. We always keep our fingers crossed to try to get through it, but we will get through it, and we will help each other afterwards. So I wish you all the best. So we heard about 2 great programs which the Rotary Foundation could help with. With beekeeping, you could hear 2 district grants and a global grant. How hard is that to do? We all get so intimidated by this grant process, but don't, because it's doable. And if you're not sure or you're intimidated by it, reach out to one of them who have done it already. So Tina, Lisa, thank you so much. A special thank you to Lisa for reminding us a few times that the only way we do this is through donations. That's what helps us do our grants, and what we give, we get back. So really a gigantic help. And Tina and Frank, what you're doing to reduce maternal and infant death is phenomenal. It kind of ties into what we're doing with our programs of scale. I think that's why the question came up. Our first program of scale was to eliminate, if not eliminate, at least significantly reduce the incidence of malaria in Zambia. And by the time that program is finished, we started in 2020. By the time that's finished, it's a 3-year program normally. They put in $2 million with us, and then it got matched by World Vision and by Bill and Melinda Gates. So it's a $6 million program to significantly reduce malaria in Zambia. By the time they're finished, they will have impacted 1.3 million individuals. And that's going to save a whole lot of lives. That's the kind of impact that Rotary and the Rotary Foundation can have when clubs get together. And I know Frank expressed his frustration with the challenges of bringing clubs together. And that's true. I totally understand that. My own club tells me the same thing all the time. The other clubs don't support us like they should. Don't give up, though. Because the more we can get together and help each of our clubs work together on projects, the bigger our programs can be. So we have to keep trying, keep bringing in those clubs that are maybe they feel overwhelmed by the club that's doing it, but find a way to bring other clubs in, because I think it is really useful to help us do more than we could ever do. And I want to ask you to keep in mind that last year was the first year that the environment was an area of focus. Things like beekeeping, that's an environmental issue. You could get a grant through our area of focus for the environment. There's others you could get it through as well, but keep the environment in mind. It's new, we aren't always thinking about it. I was just attended, I guess it was part of an institute, but actually it was called a symposium on life underwater. It was real nice because it was on a cruise ship to Bermuda. So, you know, you can't argue with that. Wonderful place to have a conference, but it really was a good conference too. We had experts from different countries around the world, and they told us some of the data about our climate changes, and we really need to address and continue to address. And we've spent over $15 million from the Rotary Foundation on environmental programs over the last 5 years. So we've been doing it, but we need to continue to do more. By the way, our next program of scale that's already started is one which ties right into what Tina and Frank were telling us about, to reduce maternal and infant mortality in Nigeria specifically. So that's now getting started and moving on pretty quickly. So again, the impact is big. And that's what we have to keep reminding ourselves. Let's see what we could do to make sure that our impact reaches as many as we possibly can. We know our issues with polio. We are going to eradicate polio. World Health Organization still feels next year we'll see our last case. That's in spite of the one that you've all heard about in shock, that in New York, we had a case of the circulating virus. And keep that in mind, it is the circulating vaccine-derived virus, and therefore it can be eradicated quickly. It's not going to spread. And it was picked up by a person who was not vaccinated. I think that's a good reminder to us all. Vaccinations are important. And I'm not going to get into the political side of that, but for polio, let's make sure our communities are vaccinated, because that community was one of the highest in the US that did not have good vaccination rates. And that's where the polio virus came back. As long as there's one virus out there, wild polio virus out there, we're going to get it to move around to other countries. So we're all still at risk. So we've got to finish the job. So I beseech you, please keep that in mind as we move forward. Polio still is our #1 priority, and we must continue. We continue with using the disaster response grants that we got, the donations that we got for Ukraine. And we've extended the time for grants for that up until the end of the year. So if anybody's still interested, wants to help those from the Ukraine, especially those who are trying to find how to live, basically, either inside or outside their country, the grants are still available. So you could partner with somebody from that part of the world. Again, I appreciate the reminder that we need to make those donations, and it kind of brings to my mind one of the goals, and I'm giving you advance information here that I probably am not allowed to give you. So just forget what I'm about to say. It's going to be taken to the trustees in October for their approval, and hopefully they will approve it. But President Gordon and I are working very closely together so we can really make sure that Rotary around the world understands we're one organization, not two. We are Rotary. And so we're working on our goals together. And our goals will come out together. But one thing we've agreed strongly that we need to do is one of the goals will be that every Rotary club and every member of Rotary donates something to the Rotary Foundation. That'll be part of our goals for next year. Okay. You probably all know, but there are Rotarians who would be shocked that only around 30-35% of our members donate to our foundation, and only about 50-55% of clubs donate to our foundation. I just imagine in my mind how much more we could do in the world. You know, not last year, the year before, during COVID, we did 2,066 global grants. That is incredible. The impact we have with that many grants changes lives and changes our world. And that's why we're here. That's what we should be doing on a regular basis, making our world a better place. If we had every single member donate something, and I'm not putting in a number to that, but just something, then we could do at least twice as much as we do now. If we do twice as much, we help twice as many people. And even without that, over the last 5 years, they estimate that our global grants have helped about 100 million people. I want that to just sink in for a moment. 100 million people in 5 years have been beneficiaries of our global grants. I just, you know, it still blows my mind when I hear numbers like that. And it's why I'm so inspired to continue doing what I'm doing and making sure that our foundation stays as the #1 organization in the world for humanitarian service. And it does that because of you, our leaders in the foundation in Zone 34. What you do to bring awareness is incredible and makes a difference. And it will bring our members in to help us to do more. And keep in mind, we also want to make sure that our messages, like what we're talking about today, need to go to every club in all of our districts. It's the clubs who aren't hearing the messages. We need to find new and different ways to reach the club so that every member knows what we're doing and how we're doing it and how well we're doing it. And if we impress them and motivate them, then they will help us. Now, I was on a call, and I have a deep respect for Arts Club Society members. And I know there's some on this call, and I thank you for doing that. A great respect. Periodically I have an opportunity to have a 15-minute Zoom call with an Arts Club Society couple, and you know, just kind of review Rotary, thank them for what they do. I was having this call with a couple of months ago, and I was just updating them, and I told them what we're doing in Ukraine, and their response was, "Tell you what, we'll give you another $50,000 for that." Those are the kind of people we have in our organization, which just allows us to do and make the impact that we do and have around the world. So thank you. And part of what I'm doing to take our goals forward as far as reaching every member is finding out what reports. You probably all know better than I do, but there's some incredible reports of the foundation. There's one that shows, I happen to have them in front of me, one that shows every single club in your district, what they're doing, how much they've donated to the Rotary Foundation. So we can see what clubs we need to talk to who aren't givers. We have one that shows the individuals in each club and what they've given. So we know what members we can talk to. We have the information to help us do what we need to do. All the district governors have to do is ask for it and then talk about it. So I just continue to be blown away by the Rotary Foundation and the work that you do. to make our world a better place. I thank you for that. And I look forward to seeing some of you in another week at our Rotary Summit in Baltimore. So thank you for your time. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for making our world a better place.
Good evening, Barry. From an islander to an islander. I'm Rosanna Roy from Puerto Rico. We have some questions for you. We wanted to know, especially coming from an island right now, we just got hit by Fiona. What kind of projects have you done in the Bahamas that represent the mission of what the foundation does?
Wow, you're combining the disaster relief with the mission of the foundation.
Well, forget disaster. It could be any project, but I was just saying, since I know we've been through this so much, and the foundation has helped Puerto Rico a lot in the past.
Absolutely, so. And I know we'll continue to. And I can combine the two because we have done global grants here related to disaster relief as well as related to healthcare. A couple I could think of in Grand Bahama, we did a global grant to bring a portable laundry. So after the disaster, people could do their wash. People want to take a shower and feel clean. We help them to get that accomplished because, as you know, there's sometimes no way to do that. We also got a global grant to help those who were fishermen. All the boats were washed inland, and I'm sure this is happening in Puerto Rico. All your boats are washed inland, and the fishermen can't do the work. That affects the economy. It affects your food source. So we managed to get a global grant to buy engines for the boats. So we brought them out of the bushes. We fixed the fiberglass. We put new engines on them with global grants, and they got back to work and helping the economy and getting food. In Nassau, not related to hurricane relief, but we got a global grant to bring in mannequins to help the nurses in studying to practice their CPR, et cetera. Really sophisticated mannequins. And that was a great opportunity for nurses to enhance their skills before we let them loose on real people. So we have lots of examples here, and certainly the grants are just so available to us. Some are intimidated by it. What they have to remember is you just follow all the rules. If you do everything the way they ask you to do it, it's going to be approved, and it's going to be approved in a relatively short time. The long time ones are the ones that have to get a kick back and forth.
Well, thank you very much. Now I take it back to Sandra.
Thank you, and thank you to Barry and your comments. I truly remember quite a few of those grants, so I really appreciate your comments on those. I'd like to thank all of our speakers and everyone who attended our webinar tonight. We hope you've enjoyed the presentations and were inspired by the great work that Rotary does. Remember that our Rotary Foundation is here to support the work of Rotarians to change the world, to make a positive impact in the world. Please encourage your fellow Rotarians to continue to support the funding of global grants through contributions to the Rotary Foundation Annual Programs Fund. Just a reminder that this webinar is being recorded and will be available for sharing with others who may not have been able to attend. I thank you once again to our presenters and to each of you for joining us, and have a good night.